Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to my channel, and I am so incredibly hyped right now because today Chelsea have announced the signing of Wesley Fofana from Chelsea. Personally, I have rated him since forever, I feel like, since he played against us and he shined, and I think that he is a super special talent. And I'm also very excited to be joined by Sam from CFC Central to go through all of Wesley Fofana's strengths and weaknesses and where we see him fitting into the team as well. So Sam, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I think it's finally nice to make an acquaintance after a long time. So really happy I could come here and talk Fofana. I mean, exciting signing, and hopefully will give our flailing defense something to be happy about.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. So for you guys that don't know, and Sam, I got this from your article, I must say, he was Leicester's Young Player of the Season in his debut campaign in the Premier League in 2020-2021. Gary Lineker said he is the most prodigiously, okay, I'm messing up the pronunciation. You get what I mean? Talented young central defender in the world. Yes, I believe that he is that good. So Chelsea should be extremely excited about this signing. So Sam, I want to ask you, what position did he play for Leicester, and then how will that correlate to where he plays for Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel?
I think what's incredible is that he's super versatile. He's basically played across the back three. He's also played in a back four, so he's comfortable in both systems. He predominantly started off at right centre back, so it's a role that I think Rogers probably thought that he was very good there. But as the season wore on, and Johnny Evans, who was basically aging and couldn't keep up in terms of the wide centre back role, something similar to the Thiago Silva role that we've seen, because you would want his intelligence, his organizing abilities, his leadership to come into that CCB role, that centre back in a back three. It's similar to what Rogers was trying with Johnny Evans, but unfortunately, when injuries started happening, and then Kaglia Soyuncu, their Turkish centre back, his form fell off. So Fofana just found himself in the middle of the back three, and I think that's exactly where he's excelled, and he's shown his best qualities there. It suits the kind of profile he's in right now at this moment in time. But that being said, he's 21, like you said. He's got the world ahead of him. He's got an incredible amount of time to improve. But right now, the player that he is, I think the CCB role suits him very well. But he can easily play at left centre back or at right centre back wherever Tuchel sees him.
That's awesome to hear because we know that Thomas Tuchel loves a versatile player as well. He signed a 7-year deal. So, like you said, he's going to be with Chelsea for the long haul. So let's deep dive into his strengths because I think that he has a lot of them. What would you say his main strengths are that he's going to bring to this team?
I think he's an excellent defender, all-round defender. Considering the targets that we went for earlier in the window, there was always a certain concern about the profiles that we were targeting. If you look at Jules Koundé, then people said, "Oh, he's not tall enough. Maybe he's going to be bullied in the air." Something that we are seeing with Lisandro Martinez at Manchester United. Then we looked at Milan Skriniar and Matthijs de Ligt, who were expensive and also centre backs who tend to be a little slow when they're turning. So those concerns were there. Pau Torres, is he strong enough? Can he handle the physicality in the Premier League? I think those doubts just evaporate when you look at Wesley Fofana. He's just proven that physically, mentally, in terms of having the right kind of determination, he's absolutely there, and at such a young age. He barely ever gets bullied. He's 6 feet 3 inches tall. He doesn't look like it. The first time I came to know he was 6'3", I was a little surprised because he looks a little shorter, but he combines an incredible amount of ground speed with dominance in the air, which is very rare to find in a centre back. And that probably goes down to the fact that he started off playing as a centre forward because he loved Didier Drogba. And his friends used to call him Didier Drogba when he was starting off in his youth clubs. He used to have his hair long, and but a lot of people at Saint Etienne, when scouting him, said, he's trying to be Drogba, but he's not Drogba. He's supposed to be somebody like a Kurt Zouma, and that's when he came to defense. So he's just somebody who's got that affinity for the dirty part of the game, somebody who loves defending, loves getting stuck into tackles, loves that rough side of the game. So I think in terms of just having somebody who's got the dog in him, like we say, in in America, I think he's definitely up there. And he'll offer you an all-round profile. In terms of ground duels, in terms of aerial duels, he's excellent. And somebody, because he's comfortable playing at left center back, at right center back, very good at dealing with runners, on either wings. So he's very smart in terms of how he handles himself, how he deals with those faster threats, something that we've probably struggled with, considering Thiago Silva and Kalidou Koulibaly aren't as quick as they used to be. So a lot of pressure coming on the centre backs when we face transitions, and maybe that he comes in and that sort of like eases off a little bit because he's very good at it. Something else that I've looked at is his awareness and his organizing. Playing next to a senior centre back like Johnny Evans, who's probably, I think, a decade younger than him, easy, ordering him around, telling him to watch his marker, telling him that you need to make sure that this is the person you need to keep an eye on. Somebody who's constantly scanning, somebody who's positioning himself based on what he sees. I think that's very good to see at such a young centre back. Those things are, mistakes that are ironed out in younger centre backs over 23, 24 years of age. But at such a young age, he's already trying to make sure that he's aware of what he's seeing. So in terms of, I think, the raw ingredients, you've got everything required to mold him into the perfect center back. And he improves a lot of things that we need urgent attention at. We've conceded 3 set piece goals in 5 matches. That's 75% of the tally from the entirety of last season. So we are sort of, yeah, we are struggling in terms of, you know, dealing with duels inside the box, a little bit of aerial supremacy, because we've lost 4 out of the 6 best aerial duelers in our side because of transfers or loans last season. So he comes in and makes sure that we get a little stronger there. So I think it addresses a very important short-term need and also fixes a long-term succession plan for probably Thiago Silva.
I love so many things about what you just said. And I was actually just going to ask you about that because that's something that I've noticed in Chelsea, just watching the past couple of games, that defending set pieces, we look super, super shaky. So I think from what you said, Wesley Fofana, not only will his height help because we're missing him, we're missing somebody who's that tall and has that presence in the box. So that could help his aerial ability, as well as his presence in the box, and like you said, his ability to kind of not be afraid to order people around no matter who it is. I feel like sometimes we might not have as many vocal players on the pitch as we need, and I think that could also be super important to Chelsea as well. So it seems like this is a great signing, and I know I've seen on social media at least a couple of people saying like, oh, well, it wasn't Chelsea's number one target. You know, they were going for Jules Conde and all of that. But it really does seem like Fofana has been a long-term target for Chelsea and that he's going to fit right into the team. What do you think?
No, 100%. I think if earlier in the window we had an inkling that he would be available, we would have gone for him sooner. But it was just that he signed a long-term contract just after coming back from injury, and we just sort of assumed that he would not be available in the market. But Leicester have apparently been going through a lot of financial trouble. They have to make sure that they sell before they can buy. The team's not performing well. Rodgers is under a lot of pressure. So all these circumstances, I think, just came together. And one of those, very fortunate moments where we missed out on the other targets and he just became available. So I think it was, if he would have been in the mix, he would have been number one target for sure. In terms of an all-round profile, and most importantly, a trend that I think we've seen in this transfer window, we are targeting PL-proven profiles. Raheem Sterling, there were links with Cristiano
Yeah.
Ronaldo in between. We went for Rafinha. So there is a moving towards, making sure that the player is acclimatized to the league, they know the intensity, they perform there. And Fofana ticks all the boxes compared to the other targets that we were going for. So I think it's a very fortunate change of events and something that benefits us massively.
Yeah, I tell you, like when he played, like I think it was like a year or two ago that I started seeing him play, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's special. What a player Leicester have on on their hands. I wish that he played for Chelsea." And now he does play for Chelsea, so I'm completely over the moon. But we've talked about a lot of his strengths, but I do want to give my viewers an equal view of Fofana and what he brings to Chelsea. So, are there any weaknesses in his game that we should be aware of?
I mean, I'm a little hesitant to call them weaknesses because he's 21. I mean, he's just super young. So, and it's also a consequence of the teams that he's played for. I would say that if you're playing for Leicester, you're arguably not going to have enough opportunities to hone certain parts of your game. You're basically going to be trying to defend, make sure that you're not conceding, and doing the defensive aspects right. But I think the one thing that he can massively improve upon is his passing. Somebody who's comfortable on the ball, somebody who's very secure. But in terms of the progressive passing that we need when we're building up from behind the back, I think it's something that he can improve on for sure. You know, he's not as good as Koulibaly or Thiago Silva or even Rudiger or Christensen in terms of trying to move the ball from that first phase into midfield or towards, the attacking third. He doesn't really try too many long passes, and he tends to get them right, but they're not the adequate quality. I mean, they tend to like end up at people's chests. They tend to end up like on Vardy's head. So it does register as a pass completed, but it's not the right kind of pass. So I think he can sort of polish the quality of his long balls. He can make sure that they're going to the right places, that there is purpose behind whatever he's trying to do. Right now, it's a little raw. He's very good at carrying the ball. He's got a incredible amount of speed. He's got good agility. So whenever he wants to burst forward, something like a Rudiger, you used to see him get on the ball and then charge forward 50 yards. I think that's something that you can expect to see. But he doesn't do that as often with his balls. When you see say Kalidou Koulibaly, for example, before he got sent off in those games before, he was top of the league in terms of line breaking passes. Somebody who can play those passes with either foot, make sure that he reaches the midfielders, and then you can progress towards attack. That is what he needs to improve on. And he's arguably got like two very good mentors next to him to help him sort of learn to do that a little more. So I think he can definitely improve upon that. And I think that's my number one concern. Like if he's playing as the wide center back, and considering that playing a three at the back comes at the expense of an extra midfielder or an extra forward, that responsibility of moving the ball from behind to up front naturally comes at your wide center back. So I think he will definitely have to pick up the mantle sooner rather than later, which is why I think it would be wise to consider him as Thiago Silva's heir. I think he fits really well at the center back position. You can keep Koulibaly out wide. There have been rumors that we're in for Josko Guardiola, so maybe he comes at left center back. He's somebody who's incredibly progressive. So you have two very progressive center backs on either side, and somebody who likes to stay deep, somebody who's very good at dealing with 1v1. So I think that profile suits him very well. But if he has to play on that right position, passing, I think, is the number one thing he needs to improve.
That's really interesting. It's a great point because it's something that we've seen. At least I feel that Chelsea have kind of failed to link the defense with the midfields with the attack, and that could be because we're missing some of those players that you mentioned, like Christensen and Rudiger, who really were very good at making those progressive balls. Do you think that Fofana starts against West Ham on Saturday, or is it too soon?
Well, I mean, I think he should start. I think the need is very urgent for him to come in, and I think he's raring to go. He's already played a couple of matches for Leicester, so he's match fit. It's not like he's rusty or anything of the sort. So if he does start, I mean, I think he is a shoe-in for the right centre back position, and him coming in, obviously just sets Reece James free. I think that's what I'm looking forward to, because trying to keep Reece James at right centre back, knowing that he's arguably the most attacking, the most influential player when it comes to the attacking third, considering how much space our wing backs get. I think it's going to be crucial for our fortunes both at the attacking third and the defensive third of the pitch. So, and also already a nice bromance brewing between both of them. So, which is
They have
something
the
that
same
I
haircut.
admire. Yeah, the similar haircut, and they followed. Like I was talking Fofana a little bit before the links became sort of concrete, and he already followed Reece James beforehand, before the links happened. So I think they've been talking behind the scenes, DMing back and forth. I think there's a little bit of nice friendship going on there. So I think it'll be good to see how Reece James is set free because of that right centre back position. Because Chalobah and Aspi haven't really grabbed that position with both hands, and Fofana just comes in and does that straight away.
No, absolutely. And this is a question that I've just thought about, but do you think that it will have any impact knowing that all three of our central defensive players speak French? Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Fofana, even Edouard Mendy as well. Do you think that that could have any impact, like a positive impact in the back line, or maybe not so much?
No, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, when I was doing my research for the article that you read, I was trying to find interviews, but strangely enough, whenever he did speak to Leicester TV, he was speaking in French. So I was a bit surprised when the Chelsea interview came out and he was speaking in English. So I
Yeah,
was
his
under the
English was very
impression
good.
English was very good. So I was like, why wasn't he doing that at Leicester? Was he a little shy? But and Leicester do have some really good French and Belgian players. So sort of baffled me a little bit. I thought maybe that French element does come in because obviously that's going to help massively if you're trying to figure out communication. So 100% would have been great. But I think he speaks a fair amount of English. But the language factor, just in terms of making you feel comfortable and making you feel like, this feels like home. I think that's very important. Not just on the field, I think more off the field.
Yeah, that's a great point as well, to make the connections in the dressing room. Like having more languages, it can only be a benefit. And I wanted to make this short and sweet, and we're right on track to do that. But my final question to you, Sam, you had to rate this transfer on a scale of 1 to 10. What would you give this transfer and why?
I would give him an 8.5, 8 and 8.5. I think somewhere between that. In terms of targeting the right kind of profile, somebody who's versatile, somebody who's young, if we get this transfer right, honestly, the transfer fee becomes a mockery because he's going to be here for at least a decade. So long-term planning, making sure that we've got somebody who's PL proven, who's got all the physical and psychological traits. I think I really admire players when I'm scouting who've shown that they can recover from adversity. So when I look at him, when he left Saint Etienne, his family got a lot of death threats. He was getting a lot of threats under a lot of pressure, but he handled that very calmly when he moved to Leicester. Then the broken tibia happened and strained ankle ligaments, and he was out for 233 days or 223 days, and then came out in his first game and scored. I think that just shows the kind of player he is. He's got that mental fortitude. He's got an incredible resilience about him that really, really ticks all the marks in terms of getting somebody in the side who's up for the big occasions. In the weaknesses, I would have liked to mention that we don't really know how he performs in the big games because he's not capped for the French national team. He hasn't played the Champions League, so how does he perform against elite opposition? But whenever I've seen him against us, for example, in the FA Cup final,
That's what I
he
was
was
gonna say. Yeah.
he was incredible.
Yeah.
And the first time he came to England, I mean, he's a big fan of Aubameyang as well. And in his third game, he came up against Arsenal, and they kept their first clean sheet since 1973. So, he's up for it. He just loves those big occasions. I think he's a big game player, and those factors also, considering our record against the big four or big three, I think it's going to be massively helpful in terms of the mentality also. So 8.5. I think the long-term injury repercussions are going to be a question mark for me. He's got a couple of knee injuries, I think 4 knee injuries back to back. And then after that, obviously, this major injury that's happened. So because I'm not a medical professional, I don't really know what the long-term repercussion is. Big game pedigree is a question mark, but everything else, I think the club has got spot on in terms of recruitment. So 8.5 would be a fair reflection.
Nice. Well, I am super excited to see Fofana hopefully play his first game for Chelsea at the weekend. And Sam, you have been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so, so much for coming on my channel and telling us all about Fofana and giving such brilliant insight. I really appreciate it. And let everybody know where they can find you.
No, I mean, the pleasure is all mine, and you're doing some incredible work, and you know, absolutely the kind of content creator we need at the forefront of the Chelsea scene. So very proud to be here, and the privilege is all mine, the honor is all mine. So thank you so much for considering me worthy to, come here and offer my humble thoughts. So
Oh
pleasure
my
is all
God.
mine.
Oh my gosh, you're
And
too much. I'm blushing. Thank you. Guys, I'll make sure to put Sam's details on Twitter. Make sure to give him a follow. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video and found it just as insightful as I did, and that you're hyped about the signing of Wesley Fofana, because you should be. If you like this video, make sure to do the usual stuff. Drop it a like, comment your thoughts about Fofana, and subscribe to my channel. Hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever time you're watching this. And until next time, I'm out. Bye.